Hello guys, and welcome back to another horror stories video. Today you will hear 3 scary stories about something paranormal. The first one is really frightening. Don't forget to subscribe, and let's get started. Me and my mom were flying back to the resort from a vacation in the woods. The plane was unusual. In the center was a circular standing area, like an open ring where passengers gathered in silence. A man stood at the center, limping, clearly injured, yet holding himself like royalty. His posture dared anyone to challenge him. We argued. About what? I don't know. Something petty that grew too loud. He bragged about still being able to stand, despite his leg. Said it made him better than me. So I joined him in the ring. Said I could do it too. That's when I noticed the girl, maybe 15, holding a circular saw with a cloth case, completely casual, like it belonged in her hands. I turned to my mom, half joking, "You should cut me." She didn't laugh. "Okay," she said. Her face was completely serious. The girl handed the spinning saw to my mom. Her dad stepped in and held me in place. The blade whirred to life. My mom pushed it into my leg, and I pulled away immediately, but it was too late. Blood already ran down my thigh. She frowned. "Oh, that was too deep. Let me try again." She moved in once more. I dodged faster this time. The saw only nicked me, but it did something worse. It peeled a layer of skin, twisting it into a spiral like a fleshy ribbon, curling away from the wound. They let me go like nothing had happened. I was stunned. The arrogant man stared, wide-eyed, and started rambling about gods and judgment. But I wasn't listening. We landed, and I ran. Rain soaked the pavement outside the airport. My mom chased me, shouting my name. I didn't stop. I didn't want to be near her. "Fuck off," I screamed over my shoulder, voice cracking. She stopped. I didn't. The resort was strange, flat, single-story, spread out like a motel, but quieter. Each door had a light above it, yellow when unlocked, red when something else. Our rooms were 124 and 125, but we both stayed in 125. I had the key to 124 anyway. As I approached 124, I noticed something. Room 125's door was slightly open. Not glowing, not beeping, just open. Like someone had gone in or come out and left it that way. Room 126 was blinking red, but I didn't know why. It was 125 that made my skin crawl. I stepped into 124 and locked the door behind me. Then I started to dream, and my vision shifted to someone else. A boy who looked just like Cedric Diggory. We'd been friends before, in the past, but now I was watching him from afar. He sat in a room, speaking softly, looking toward the table in front of him. On the table laid a boy, carefree, cocky. He was supposed to be dead. He'd died here before, I remembered that much. But now he was here, alive again, calm, smiling. They talked like good friends. And then he left. Then a third person appeared beside them, older, colder. He looked Cedric in the eye. "He's a bad influence," he said. "You need to cut him off." But then the illusion fractured. There was no one else in the room. The troublemaker was gone. The advisor, a voice in his head. Cedric had been hallucinating the entire thing. Every word, every memory, nothing but mental echoes. And then we saw what he had become. The illusion of beauty peeled away. His face sagged. His skin was wet and rubbery, stretched over a bloated, discolored frame like melted latex over bone. He twitched, muscles uncoordinated. His eyes weren't there anymore, and his arms began to turn green, glossy, gummy, translucent, like candy. His body softened, shrank, and slumped into the shape of a half-eaten banana. Yellowed, peeled. The door creaked open. A man stepped in, calm, collected. He wasn't surprised. He smiled gently and offered a small, strange candy. "Eat," he said. "More." This is what the resort does. It chooses someone, and then it breaks them. Not all at once, bit by bit. Delirium replaces logic. Reality loses shape. They think they're in their room, but they're not. They've already been taken to the blue building in the corner of the resort. That's where it happens. In the upper left corner of the resort stands a building square, light blue, with a yellow sun symbol painted above a single gray metal door. But here's the thing. The building is surrounded by a second wall separate from the rest of the resort. Tall, seamless, same pale blue, and there's no visible way inside the wall. Only the building itself has an entrance. You never see anyone enter. You never see anyone leave. People just disappear. And then there's the creature. I've never seen it directly from inside the resort. I mean, only in cutaways. Dreams within the dream, glimpses from the outside, like a memory that doesn't belong to me. But I know it's real. It lives inside the inner wall. A light blue cuboid monster. Its body is flat and wide like a low box. It moves on 4 square legs, slow but purposeful. And rising from its body is a tall vertical cuboid neck, just high enough to peek over the wall. Wherever someone walks near the wall, it follows slowly, silently, staring. It doesn't speak, it doesn't breathe, it only watches. Somewhere else in the resort, a T-Rex relaxes by the pool. One of the guests, friendly, oddly noble. He has a pet alligator relaxing in the water beside him. Then he sniffs the air. He smells something delicious, and then his face twists in horror. It's his friend, the Cedric boy. The scent is him. The dinosaur leaps to his feet and runs across the resort. He cuts through the garden paths, the outer rooms, and finally reaches the blue wall. He sees the sun symbol, the square building inside, and the towering blue monster shifting nearby. He runs faster. The creature turns, and then black. Every room in the resort has a caretaker, nun-like, always nearby, always watching. Their faces are painted into wooden placards that hang from your room key. You can call them if you need help. I can't tell if they're here to protect the guests or make sure they stay in line. Sometimes they vanish. Sometimes the guests do. Room 126 is still blinking red. Room 125 is still slightly open. I'm in room 124. And I don't know how long I have. I'm 23 now, but this happened when I was like 6 or 7. I've told a few people about it, and I know it sounds crazy, but my older brother was there with me, and he remembers everything the exact same way, like word for word. We even randomly bring it up sometimes, just to make sure we're not losing it or making stuff up. We've called each other mid-convo with someone else like, "Yo, tell them what happened again." Anyway, here's what went down. Some quick context. I grew up in Hawaii, out in the country, way up in the mountains. At the time, it was just me, my mom, and my older brother. He was 12 or 13, at home. My stepdad was out with our other brothers running errands or something, and my biological dad lived down the mountain like 45 minutes away. Me and my brother were chilling in our room playing video games. At some point, we noticed it got dark, and the hallway light outside our door was off. We got a little spooked. I remember peeking out and seeing my mom's bedroom light on and her door open, but the rest of the house was pitch black. I think she told us earlier she was going to take a bath. I don't fully remember, but somehow we knew she was in the bath. So we go to check on her. Her bedroom's empty, so we go knock on the bathroom door, no answer. We keep knocking, calling out, asking if she's okay. Still nothing. Eventually we just go in, and the tub is full of water, but she's not in there. No mom. Nothing else weird. Just a full tub, empty room, and the rest of the house in total darkness. At this point, we're both pretty freaked. My brother puts me on my mom's bed, and he starts calling out for her in the hallway. The way our house was set up, the hallway went past our rooms and off to the left toward the living room. He's calling out, nothing. So he comes back and starts trying to call her phone. No answer. Then, the part that still messes me up. We heard a whisper, like clear as day, like someone literally leaned in and whispered right into our ears. It was so real it felt like my mom was sitting beside us whispering something secretly to each of us individually. The first thing we heard was, "He's hiding." I screamed. My brother immediately threw my mom's blanket over my head, hugged me tight, and told me to close my eyes. Then, same voice, same whisper, but louder, "He has no face." We both lost it. My brother starts calling my stepdad like, "We can't find mom, weird stuff's happening, I don't know what's going on." He told us to stay put and said he was coming home. Then we called our bio dad too, cause depending on where he was, he might get there faster. We just sat there in my mom's room for like 20 to 30 minutes. Nothing else happened, but we were terrified. Eventually my stepdad got home with our older brothers. They were in high school. We'd already told them what happened, so they immediately started tearing through the house, attic, closets, everything. My stepdad went toward the living room, and I don't remember exactly how he found her, but I remember hearing people talking and coming out to the living room. She was just sitting in the rocking chair. My stepdad was crouched in front of her, holding her hands, talking to her. I don't even remember what he was saying, But then suddenly, she started laughing. Like this wild, hysterical laugh. Not funny haha laughing, scary laughing, just non-stop for like a full minute. Then she jumped up out of nowhere, ran to her bathroom, and started throwing up. And what came out wasn't normal. It was black, like pitch black. We were all just standing there like, what the actual hell is going on? After that, she was fine, like totally normal. But the craziest part, she didn't remember any of it. She said the last thing she remembered was setting up her bath. Nothing after that. She still doesn't remember anything to this day. July 14th, 1992. I remember the date because it was the night the world went black. Literally. I was working the graveyard shift as security guard at a closed factory in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. The entire factory was shut down for vacation, meaning it was completely empty. My job was simple: to sit in my car in the parking lot and ensure no one entered the building. I wasn't allowed inside, which meant my car was my only post, my only shelter. The air had been heavy all evening, but no one expected what hit us. To pass the time, I had the radio on low, tuned to the Major League Baseball All-Star Game from Jack Murphy Stadium. The comforting thwack of bat on ball, the roar of the crowd, the announcer's smooth voice, it was a small piece of normalcy in the quiet, isolated factory. A thunderstorm rolled in with a sudden, violent fury. One moment, the rhythmic hum of the factory's distant generators was my only company. The next, the world outside exploded. Rain lashed against the windows, and the wind howled like a banshee. Suddenly, the baseball game was interrupted by the jarring, urgent tone of the emergency alert system. A robotic voice cut through the static. Tornado warning. Seek shelter immediately. A jolt of terror went through me. Then, with a definitive thunk, the power went out. Inside the sprawling, silent factory, the emergency lights kicked on, casting an unsettling, glowing red like embers in a dying furnace, barely visible through the sheets of rain and the momentary flashes of lightning. It was like looking into the eyes of some dormant beast. Outside, though, the darkness was absolute. The parking lot lights, usually a beacon, were dead, swallowed by the storm. I peered into the pitch-black abyss, unable to see more than a few feet in front of me. That's when it hit. A terrifying, splintering crash that sent a tremor through the pavement and up into my seat. The sound, impossibly loud, seemed to hang in the air, its echo stretching into an agonizing eternity, even as the storm raged. It was close, too close. My heart hammered against my ribs. I had to know what happened. I had to get out. Fumbling for the ignition, I started my Ford Escort, its engine coughing to life, a small, fragile island of noise in the howling chaos. I edged the car forward, my headlights cutting twin beams into the pitch-black void of the curvy driveway. The rain was a solid wall, making every foot of progress feel like driving blind. Then, the beam caught it. Filling the entire exit, sprawling like a monstrous broken limb, was a giant oak tree. Its colossal trunk having ripped from the earth. It had smashed the company sign to splinters, completely blocking the only way out. I was trapped, alone, in the dark, with the echoes of a tornado warning still ringing in my ears, and I had no idea what was out there. With no cell phone in 1992, contacting anyone was impossible. I was truly on my own. Trapped and isolated, I huddled in my Ford Escort, the only refuge against the unseen fury outside. Then, amidst the pandemonium, a sudden, unnerving silence began to creep in. The roaring wind faded to a whisper, the deluge softened to a drizzle. A strange, deceptive calm settled over the factory, like the world was holding its breath. Against my better judgment, a desperate need to understand the chaos, to see the extent of the damage, pulled me from the relative safety of my car. I opened the door and stepped out into the strange, humid stillness. I couldn't see much in the lingering darkness, just the vague outlines of debris and the looming factory. But the respite was brutally short-lived. Before I could fully survey the destruction, the storm resumed with a vengeance. It didn't roll back in, it exploded around me. The wind shrieked, instantly tearing at my clothes. Rain turned from drops to a solid icy sheet, blinding me. I had to run, stumbling through the renewed deluge, scrambling back to the flimsy shelter of my car. By the time I slammed the door shut, I was soaking wet, shivering not just from the cold, but from the gut-wrenching terror of being caught in that sudden, overwhelming assault. The wind was a physical force, shaking my Ford Escort violently. It felt like a giant hand was pushing against the roof, threatening to roll the car over. Then, adding to the nightmare, a tree branch was blown directly under my car. It lodged there, scraping and scratching against the undercarriage with an eerie, rhythmic sound that grated on my nerves. The rain intensified, a relentless downpour that turned the windshield into a blurred, opaque wall. I couldn't see anything. I was just a small, vulnerable target in the heart of the storm. Suddenly, the baseball game on the radio was interrupted again by the familiar, chilling tone of the emergency alert system. Another tornado warning. It felt like lightning was striking all around my car, not with a crash, but with a series of sharp, terrifying clicks. One particularly close strike illuminated the darkness for a split second, and I saw a spark shoot up into the air nearby, only to fizzle out just as quickly. For the next 10 minutes, I sat there, frozen behind the wheel, unable to move, unable to think of anything but the terrifying power unleashed outside. Then, just as abruptly as it had arrived, the storm completely stopped. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the ringing in my ears. I cautiously got out of my car, the air heavy with the scent of wet earth and crushed leaves. I reached down and pulled the offending tree branch from beneath my Escort. Leaning against the still shaking car, I listened, and in the distance I heard the faint, comforting wail of sirens. Within 30 minutes, a Cuyahoga Falls police officer spotted me from the road, his spotlight cutting through the lingering gloom. The sight of another human being, even just a silhouette in the beam of a flashlight, brought an overwhelming wave of relief. The factory owner arrived around 2 a.m., and by 8 a.m., the colossal tree that had trapped me was finally removed. I later learned that a tornado had indeed touched down in Cuyahoga Falls that night, just over a mile from where I was. Thinking about how close I came, about the absolute isolation and terror I'd felt, filled me with a profound sense of gratitude. I felt happy just to be alive. And for the record, the American League won the All-Star Game 13-6. Thanks for watching this video. Write in the comments what story you like the most. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time. Bye.